Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Ice Age, the original from 2002. This movie is over 21 years old. This came out, 2002. It is an hour and 25 minutes long, and it is a 20th Century Fox acquisition. This is not a Disney thing, even though they have made a Disney Plus original series shorts based on characters from the later sequels to this original film. This is very much an old 20th Century Fox property. They were in the animation game as well, just like everybody else. I mean, sure, it's not like Toy Story was the first digital motion picture. Well, in a sense, it was the biggest of all time. It said, you know what, we can make entire animated movies this long and make big box office. And so suddenly everybody was doing it. Sony and Fox and DreamWorks, just everybody was doing this stuff. And yeah, Ice Age was one of the biggest that did not fall under the Disney umbrella until recently. And this had a number of notable famous names at the time. Dennis Leary, John Leguizamo, and Ray Romano as the main three characters. It's, Dennis Leary is the saber-toothed tiger, John Leguizamo is a sloth, and Ray Romano is a woolly mammoth. There is a distinct lack of females in this. There are a few that make cameos. There's some female sloths, and there's some female other creatures, all on a migration during the Ice Age to get away from the cold. There's this film, yes, it has a real story to it, but I think there's a lot of this is to show off what digital animation can do at this time. And when you look at it now, it looks very primitive. Yes, it's 20 years ago, but at the time, it was freaking mind-blowing. It was pretty great. But when you look at it now, you can see the limitations that they were under. I'm sure an animator could tell you so much better than I could about how how long things took to render and how limited they were in how they would build the characters, move them around, and create textures. One of the things I really pay attention to in digital animated films is hair and water, and both look so muddy. The hair looks very muddy. It's not very detailed. If you go just a few years after this and look at Monsters, Inc., and you can see all the hair on Sully, and then that looks completely primitive compared to Monsters University. I think this is a really good way of, you get an entertaining story with some good comedy. It's on Disney, whatever, but it's kind of its own little classic. I don't know if story-wise it's groundbreaking, but I was surprised at one, how dark it was at times, and it had some pretty decent action, pretty good action for a bunch of three creatures that are basically tracing the wastelands, I guess. I don't know, I want to call them wastelands, the primitive lands in the couple 100,000 years ago, and trying to return a human baby, to its parents. Meanwhile, one of them might be have a slightly different mission in order to capture this baby for the people they work with. And yes, I know it sounds like humans, but yeah. And will he betray the group? It's a big family film, everything else, but in a lot of this, this is a showcase of what's possible in 2002. We're barely at this point. We had 2 prequel Star Wars films. We had just probably gotten the first Spider-Man film in 2002. I don't know if this came out before or after that. I'm not seeing the exact release date. But yeah, 2002 is a kind of momentous year for big digital effects types movies. Raimi didn't do as much digital effects as most other films, especially superhero films, but still, Spider-Man had its share. I know I'm talking about everything but Ice Age. In this, there's a couple other voices, by the way, that kind of just get lost in this. There's one, Jack Black plays Zeke. I think that's one of the saber-toothed tigers. Cedric the Entertainer is in this. Stephen Root, Diedrich Bader, Alan Tudyk. Jeez, there's a lot. Jane Krakowski. There's a lot of voices in this that you can easily just sort of, oh, they were in that. That's, yeah. I mean, again, we spend most of the time with our three heroes, and it's 3 Men and a Baby is what it technically is. Yes, it doesn't have the same story arc, but it's still three guys who have suddenly are taken possession of a small child, and they've got to find a way to deal with their own stuff at the same time as taking care of this child that they don't want to do. But over time, it turns out they kind of like the little bugger, and they do everything they can to protect it. So that's kind of cool. One of my fun little, there's lots of visual gags throughout this. John Leguizamo is the crack up in this, beyond Scrat, who of course can't have an Ice Age film without Scrat. He's always going after that nut, and of course he starts out this film, and you kind of figure if you've never seen an Ice Age movie before, you might figure this might be one of the main characters. He's not. He's just a recurring character in every single one of the films, and it's a Roadrunner coyote type of situation, except the Roadrunner is just an acorn, and it just keeps getting away no matter what Scrat does. By the way, since they didn't know there would be any sequels or anything else with this, the very end of this film jumps ahead 20,000 years. Yeah, Scrat has been frozen in ice, going after the acorn, and can he thaw himself out in enough time to finally get it? Well, I mean, I guess if you're going to bother with the canon timeline or anything else, why would you? I guess he could get himself into that situation after all the other films are finished. He's going into space. He's broken up continents. All sorts of stuff have gone on in the sequels. So yeah, and by the way, I've looked at every single one of the sequels as far as I can tell, unless there's one on here that, let me make absolutely sure. We've seen Buck Wild, The Meltdown, Continental Drift, Collision Course, The Escapade, Scrat Tales, and The Mammoth Christmas. I'm pretty sure we've seen all of them. I'll have to double check, but yeah, if you're done with princesses and Star Wars and Marvel superheroes and everything else, it wouldn't hurt you to check these out. They're not my favorite films either, but they always tend to be entertaining. And like I was saying, John Leguizamo is the crack up. He's the guy who's always... He's the funniest character in this because he's constantly just being an idiot for the most part. And Ray Romano is a straight man who's very just gruff the entire time as the Mammoth. And Ray Romano is Manny. And then Diego is Dennis Leary. And he's even more straight man because he doesn't like anybody, but yet each of them have their own little deeper story character element that gets revealed throughout the story, which is neat, which you don't really expect. You just expect animated animals doing wacky things and action and slapstick and things like that. But there's a heart to this film, and it's surprising, but it's still, it makes sense. So yeah, lots of bits, and they've built on these bits, of course, in the sequels and everything else. But for the most part, this is the core of the whole franchise. There wouldn't be so many freaking sequels if this thing wasn't as good as it was. So yeah, I'd say give it a shot if you haven't ever seen it in a long time, or if you haven't seen it ever. This is where you want to start. but you got a whole Ice Age cinematic universe that will expand into sort of other eras and other characters and everything else. So yeah, it's directed by Chris Wedge and one other, it says. Oh, why won't you? Chris Wedge and Carlos Saldana. But yeah, check it out. I feel like I've forgotten something, but yeah. I wanted to do the Three Men and a Baby reference because that's what it felt like to me. For the first time after watching all these films, I realized that it was Three Men and a Baby, sort of, with a much darker tone, that the baby could be eaten at some point. Yeah. And yeah, there's a whole lot more death-defying action in this than Three Men and a Baby. Also, no Ted Danson. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
60.
Ted Danson was in that, right? Yeah. Right? 60. Okay. Ooh, right there. Don't have to scroll at all. All right, let's zoom in so you can see this. There are a lot. There's more than anything else on Disney Plus right now. Out of the things that are left, there's a lot of documentaries. National Geographic is just choking out. I mean, maybe we just got lucky and I got a whole lot of Disney-focused stuff early over the first 3.5 years I've been doing this. But they threw in a lot of documentaries at the end of last year. And starting in the next quarter, they'll be adding a bunch more shorts, classic Disney shorts, which we won't get to see until the fourth quarter because they'll only be added in July through October. But the balance is coming, and we are eating through a ton of these documentaries. I think it's 2-to-1. When it comes to, I think movies are second to the amount of documentaries, and I think it's 2-to-1 difference. I could be wrong. But hey, soon, in just a few days, I'm going to reset the list, and it's going to wipe away a lot of redundancies, a lot of stuff that's been removed as well. And maybe we might. No, I'm going to be fair. My goal is to try to watch everything on here, so I'm not going to eliminate anything except for what I already have, such as we're not doing the ESPN Sports 30 for 30 things. We did one of those. We don't need to do every one of them. So if I had kept those in, we would have so many more documentaries. No. And I have a rule about sharks too. Anyway, we're going to be watching Born in China. Born in China is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with it.